Hey folks, it's Tom the Frugal Prepper. So I get asked a lot of times. I've done a few videos about network engineering, and I get asked a lot of times about like tools for network engineering, and this is my tool bucket from 20 plus years of kind of doing it, and some of the tools you'll need. Some of this is more network technician type stuff, more so than a network engineer. Network engineer is kind of a wide term that's used to describe everything from somebody that sets up Microsoft servers to, a Cisco person, or, it's kind of a broad term. But even as a network engineer, you're sometimes going to have to do network technician type stuff, or even cable installer type stuff. If it's down, you got to get it fixed. And sometimes, it's kind of weird. Like if you had a VCR, DVD player that wasn't working right, you wouldn't call the electrician that wires up houses to come fix that. But in an environment with computers, if it has network connectivity, if it has a network plug or a wireless adapter, everybody will, when nobody can figure it out, it eventually finds its way back to the network engineers to fix. So you kind of have to be a jack of all trades if you want to be a really effective network engineer. So I'm just going to kind of take you through my bucket. My bucket has tools all along the outside of it. This is just one of those bucket liners that you can get to put in a 5-gallon bucket. You can get them at Harbor Freight. I've carried many different toolboxes and bags and stuff over the years, and I've probably for the last 10 years used one of these, and it's just the most effective. You do have to be careful with this if you're sitting down like at a job site, whether installing new cabling, doing new office work, that kind of stuff. Watch out for the other contractors, because they will come along and be like, "Oh, I need a screwdriver. Hey, look, here's one," or "Need a punch down tool." So I do write my name on everything that I possibly can, because stuff will come up missing. If you go look on other people's tool carts and stuff, you'll usually find your stuff laying there. I don't think people intentionally steal it. They just use it, they get busy, they lay it down, and they forget about it. So I'll kind of take you through. This will be a nice long video of what these tools are and what they do. And I don't think this is completely unprepper related, because having a few basic tools to splice some pairs and knowing how to troubleshoot a pair and how tip and ring works on phone systems, it'd be a very important skill to have for comms in a after SHTF event. You raid some office buildings, find an old traditional key system. I'd look for personally like an old Lucent or AT&T partner, because they can work with digital phones as well as analog phones, which is just a plain old phones like you plug in a phone jack at home. And you understand how to splice pairs and trace those pairs that are running down the streets anyway, you can hop onto that. You can put in your own local little exchange to be able to, for people to be able to call for help or report things. So knowing how to do some of this or having a few of these tools could come in real handy for that in a prepping scenario. In fact, if you know a phone guy, there's a lot of these tools in here that really are phone related, and I've done phone system installations in the past. I've worked with Lucent partners, Verdavi's. I used to work with a Verdavi reseller. I've worked with a lot of UIP phone systems, which still tie into a lot of analog devices. So I have a pretty good understanding of phone stuff and networking stuff. I'm kind of a jack of all trades kind of guy. I can fix cars, I can fix computers, I can fix electronics, I can do board level repair, I can do phone systems, networking, and networking, pretty much anything in networking. I'm usually the guy that just jumps in and figures out how to solve the problem. So I'll slide this off to the side here, and I'll just kind of take these tools out. I'll zoom in so that you can see what we're going to be talking about here. I'll just kind of start with some of the tools. Some stuff's that's pretty basic. I always keep a nice little light with me. This is just a light that has like 2 settings of brightness. It's a real simple little flashlight. It's got a hook to hang it. There was a magnet on it that fell off. I got some little drill bits here. I don't really have a drill in this bucket, but I do usually have a drill in my car or somewhere close by, so that can be handy. This is probably something that's good to have. This is more of a phone system thing, but you get into troubleshooting analog lines in networking in general. And this is just a butt set. It's got a LCD that you can hook up and you can dial and make and take calls. It also, this one has it had a DSL troubleshooter in it too, but it doesn't work with the modern ADSL. It was like the old HDSL or something back in the day. But this one also has a digit grabber, so if you clip onto a line and there's digits going across it, you can decode what those digits are that are being dialed. But these have like let's see, clips. I'll show you. So like you open this clip, it has what I call them vampire clips, but I don't know. I think they're really called bed of nails clips, and it has like a little tiny thing of pins up here. It'll actually pierce the insulation if you put the wire in there. And you can also, they're shaped on the end, so that you can get these right on a punch down block. So you can clip on and troubleshoot phone lines that way. I keep it, things like pliers and screwdrivers. That stuff's all in here. You're going to need those things. I also, here's a SATA cable that's gotten put in there from some point. I do keep a little multimeter in here. That's important for being able to, measure voltage and resistance and those kinds of things. So I have a little inverter in here in case I need to charge something in the car that takes AC. I just keep that in here. I keep some real basic little wrenches in here too, just in case I need to turn some nuts and bolts. Get some little basic old wrenches. This you don't see too often anymore. This is what's called a RS-232 breakout box. So back in the days when I used to hook up a lot of dumb terminals to mainframes, you'd have to figure out the wiring. It comes with these jumpers you can put on the posts, lights to tell you what signals you're getting, and you can figure out the wiring that you needed to make to hook up your serial dumb terminals to mainframes. But those days are pretty much gone now. Every once in a while I still have to pull this out and use it for like a serial printer or something. Another important tool, let me get all the parts of it out here, this is a, some people will call these foxhounds or tone and probe, but it has this probe piece, and then you have this piece that generates a tone, and you can put this in here, and you can turn this on, and then you would hook this up to the wires, say down your street where you got a phone connection you want to make, and you come down to in front of your house where you need to find the other end of the wire, and it puts a tone on it, and then you can hear that tone. And then I have two of the tone generators because I have a different brand that makes a different sounding tone, right? So you can, use this one. And the nice thing about this is now I have both of these going. So on this one, let me get the turn that all the way up so you can hear it. That makes that sound, and this one will. So you can hear the two different sounds. So if you're trying to find multiple jacks, you can go plug these two in, and you can trace out two wires or two pairs at a time. This comes in handy for networking. You need to figure out where a network drop's going because somebody hasn't labeled the cable. Be aware that these don't work on an active network connection. So if you're plugged into the switch on the other side, I've never had it hurt the switch, but you probably won't be able to hear the tone. Fluke does make one that you can plug into an active network connection. I had one when I worked at the county. The county bought one. It works amazingly well. It's extremely expensive though, so I don't have one in my own kit. But I just soldered this little adapter here up. Basically a couple alligator clips and a coupler. That way I can clip onto some wires if I need to, or I can just plug this piece here right into a jack on the wall. Put this away. Let's see what else we got here. So I also keep just a slew of test probes and jumpers for my multimeter and for clipping onto things and testing stuff. This is going to be important to get some of this kind of stuff and have in your bucket, your tool bucket as well. As a network engineer, you're probably going to also want a punch down tool. This is a Paladin Tools one. I've worn out several of these over the years, punching down 200 hair cables repeatedly, and they wear out after a time. But this has also bits for two different kinds of blocks. 66 is usually used for phones, but 110 is used for network jacks, and it's also used for phones. These have an end that cuts and an end that doesn't cut. So if you're bridging a connection, you use the no cut end, and if you just need to terminate at where you're punching down, you use the cut end. And it's the same way for the 110. Oh, if I get it out. It has both a cut and an uncut end as well. Let me get it back in here. There it goes. I have a level, so if you get into having to hang stuff up on a wall, like an access point or something, it's good to have a level. This is a little Craftsman torpedo level. I've had it for years and years, but it also has a magnet on it. And the magnet's just not very strong anymore. But the magnet used to be pretty good on this, and you could, like if you were hanging an access point or something that was metal, you could just stick this on the metal frame of it and level it out. But I still keep this around. You're probably going to want to get some jacks to put on the end of cables. I have some RJ45s, some RJ11s, and some 4P, 4C jacks is what they're really called. Most of us old phone guys call them RJ9s, but they're the handset for the handset cords on phones. And you probably want to get a set of crumpers that can do all three styles of jacks. And that's what these are. These have three positions for RJ11s, 45s, and 9s. And it's got some cutters and strippers in them. Get these pretty cheap on eBay. They don't work too terribly bad. But if you have the money, I'd buy a set that might be a little bit better quality. If you're going to crimp a lot. I don't crimp very much anymore though. Just, screwdriver, Phillips. I also, just if I need to see if there's voltage on something real quick, I keep a little 120 volt test light in here. You probably also want a wire stripper so that you can strip wiring if you're going to be terminating it. This will strip the insulation off of it without cutting the inside wires. Little screwdriver, you're going to need that. Gotta have one of those. You know, some little cheap wire cutters. You don't have to have expensive ones. You know, you're not putting these tools through a lot of torture doing what you're doing, so you don't always have to have the best. I also keep a little assortment of little screws for like laptops and tablets and stuff, because I get into working on those sometimes. I keep a crescent wrench and some Allen wrenches in here, just in case I need them. It's not often that you'll need like tools like this or those other wrenches, but as a network engineer, you really get into sometimes having to work on like racks and stuff and putting them together if they don't come assembled. It's good to have some basic wrenches for that kind of stuff. In case you get into working with like cable modems or cable connections, this is a set of RG6 crimpers. You can get these at Harbor Freight. They work really well. But these are for putting the ends on the kind of cable. It's the same like your cable TV, you know, that comes in your house. It has these ends here, and they fit down inside this tool, and then you stick your cable on there, and then you squeeze it. It collapses this connector and puts an end on it for you. I also, these are different wire splicing things. You're going to want some of these. I don't know, I always call them Scotch locks because that's what they're called. But these are by like 3M. You see these a lot. The little red ones that take 3 wires, and then there's little yellow ones take 2 wires. And then these are kind of new. I got these somewhere, a whole bunch of them, but they're filled with gel, and you put a wire on each end, and you crimp each end down, and it pierces the wire, and it's filled with gel so that it's watertight as well. So each one does a pair. These are good for splicing pairs back to back. I got some more different assorted computer screws and stuff, and these old pill bottles. I just keep all these little loose parts in an old Cool Whip bowl in the bottom of my bucket. I have a wire wrap tool. You know, I was talking about doing serial ports with that breakout box. This is one of the things you used to have to put the pins in and out of the, I guess it's not wire wrap tool. It's an insertion tool for the little connectors that you used to make up for those dumb terminals. They're not around much anymore. I wouldn't worry about that stuff. And just like, you know, there's some assorted like drywall anchors. This is a wire nut. Some screws from something or another. You're gonna get a little assortment of stuff. It would be a good idea to have some of these like 66 ridge clips, or what's called a 66 block. Especially if you're going to get into any phone type stuff. Like if you're going to be voice over IP, you're going to have some of this phone type stuff. You really are. Because you're going to have to be involved with hooking up fax machines into your voice over IP phone system and hooking up older analog lines into your system. Intercompatibility type things with older phone systems. So yeah, you're going to need some of this phone type stuff can come in handy. Again, write your name on everything. I also keep a soldering iron, and I have some solder in my little Cool Whip bucket there, just to be able to solder some wires together if I need to. Doesn't happen often, but it's a good idea to have it. I have this little screwdriver set with all the different little miniature bits to take apart anything like that's small, like MacBooks or laptops and stuff. just because I'm a computer guy too. So I have that in there. We got some soldering flux. This is our Radio Shack brand, just in case I need to solder. I also keep, like, some highlighters, a pen and a pencil. Always have you a Sharpie. You can never have too many Sharpies. I also keep like extra batteries for my different equipment, just in case. I have this cable tester. This is a generic one, and most of the time this is all you're going to need for troubleshooting and stuff like that. Now, if you're an installer, you're going to probably need a cable certifier, but the truth is that if you need that, it's such an expensive piece of equipment that your company will probably buy that for you. I just have a little patch cable I made up and put in the end of this in case I need to hook this onto a wall jack and then go to the other end and test. And you just turn it on. Well, here's another trick, is I leave my battery disconnected normally unless I'm ready to use it, because every once in a while this will bump around in my tool bucket and it'll turn itself on, and then my battery is dead when I go to use it. But all it does is it lights these lights down this end right here and shows you that they're all connected, and if they're connected backwards it lights up red, that kind of thing. I also keep some different types of wire and stuff. This is actually wire from work where I've been doing up some patch cables and stuff at work. I've got a little chunk of that. And this is another little patch cable and a little coupler here. Just sometimes if I'm testing cables and stuff, I'll need an extra chunk of patch cable. The trick is to never give away the patch cables that you carry in your tool bucket, because somebody will need one, and then you'll get to the next job and need it. Let's see if there's anything else here to show you. That's about it, I think. But yeah, if you have any, I guess, more questions about what some of this stuff is and what it does, feel free to, let me know. I'll do a video of going through and punching down a cable or punching down a Cat 5 jack, that kind of stuff. There's probably plenty of videos about a lot of that stuff on YouTube already, but hey, I'm always willing to share some knowledge. But I think knowing, having like a toner, punch down tool, and some of those splices that I showed you, where I caught the Scotch locks or whatever, having some of those could be real handy if you need to try to wire up some communications in an SHTF scenario in your neighborhood or town or whatever. You might want to put some of that in your comm plan, or find a phone system installer guy that has some of these tools and knows how to do this stuff. But yeah, this is just how I carry it here in my bucket. I don't buy anything expensive. So I use a Cool Whip bowl and an old pill bottle and whatever. I think this like cloth thing that goes on your bucket from Harbor Freight doesn't cost much. This isn't the only one I've ever had. I've worn several of these out over the years, and I just get another one once in a while after carrying this bucket around for miles and miles. This handle will break off of the bucket. Just get another bucket, throw that one away. It's no big deal. These things are $3 at Home Depot. One thing I would say is this isn't a secure way to keep your tools. So you still need to keep them locked in your vehicle or something most of the time. Don't just take them in and sit them by your desk. Your coworkers might make off with them when they're out looking to fix something. There's an emergency, they need the tool, they just grab it, and they forget to put it back. I think when I first went out and bought tools back in, it would have been 1994, I bought some of my first engineering network technician tools. I don't think I have a single tool left from back then. I bought so many tools over the years, and I probably don't have anything in this bucket that's over 5 years old for the most part. Maybe a couple things that are 10 years old. I take it back. This breakup box will probably be the oldest thing in here. That's probably from about 20 years ago. But other than that, I mean, the tools can just get lost over time when you're out in the field with them working around other contractors and people. They will come up missing. They'll get left. No matter how hard you try, you'll have to buy new. And things break. Like this butt said here, I used to have a tone probe that matched that. Then the tone generator broke. So that's when I got this other tone generator here and used that. Then the probe broke years after that. So then I thought, well, I need another one, and I ran to Home Depot a few years back, and they had that one. And this one happens to come with an extra tone generator. And it came with a set of alligator clips that went in the end. Of course, those came up missing one day on a job site. So that's when I soldered these up here and made up my own set. Because they wanted $20 for another little pair of alligator clips for that guy. So, and this one, for the most part, these tone probes that listen for the tone will listen to any tone generator. There's also a popular brand out there called Foxhound. It used to be really popular, actually. It's not so much anymore. But these progressive electronic ones are what you'll see most of your phone company guys walking around with. This has been actually a very sturdy tool over the years. It's worked well. Just something to think about. To start building up a small toolkit if you're looking at getting into network engineering and you're learning stuff. I'd say start out with like some crimpers and some jacks, and probably a tone and probe and a punch down tool, and then just like screwdrivers would be that. And after that, I'd look at like maybe a multimeter. But that's your most important stuff if you're getting into network engineering. Luckily, none of this stuff's super expensive anymore. My first pair of crimpers, which the company bought them for me, so I had to turn them back in. Best crimpers I've ever used in my life. But they're called GNP, I believe. GNP. If it's not GNP, it's GMP. I think they're GNP, and they call them modular plug pressers. And for a set with the 3 dies, it was like $500. Nice set of crimper set, but I can't spend that kind of money, especially nowadays when I crimp a custom cable every now and then. It's not something I do every day. Back in the day, when I first started with Twisted Pair, you couldn't buy pre-made patch cables. You had to make them. I went on jobs where I crimped thousands of them. Where I spent weeks at a job site just sitting in a chair crimping cables with blisters on the tips of my fingers. So, it was good stuff. The other thing that's always nice to have, I never leave home without it, is my Swiss Army knife. I got my little scissors in here. These are handy for when you're making cables to trim off the ends. This has got the nice sharp knife blade. This has also got it's like a nail file, but this end here works as a small flat tip or a Phillips screwdriver for regular size Phillips screw. And it's got a ballpoint pen. So you can see it right there in the end of it. And it's got a little set of tweezers in it too, which I never use. Yep, and they're still in there. But what I love about this one is I've upgraded this from an 8 gig to a 64. But this one's got a little 64 gig thumb drive built right into it too. So that comes in handy. A thumb drive is something you probably want to have a couple of those around as well if you're going to be into networking. So that's pretty much all I've got. I'll talk to y'all later. This is Tom Friggle Prepper. Let me know if you have any questions.